Hello and welcome. Welcome back to the Edufuturists podcast. It's 2024. You notice there's two of us on stage. We're not even on stage. We're on screen. Started as we mean to go on. Yeah, we're back. We're back in the seat. And Steve, it's good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, it's back with a bang. It's January 2024. And the gruesome threesome is now a gruesome twosome, I guess.
Yeah, dynamic duo, somebody said the other day. I heard somebody say. Dynamic duo.
They can lie all they want and try and smoke up his ass, mate, but it's just not true. But we'll give it a good go. But
it might have been me. I might have said it myself about us.
Yeah, favourite two members of the Edufuturists will maintain and will continue. I've got that. Somebody did write that. I've got it laminated on my fridge. The kids wrote it. It was wonderful. It was a nice statement.
Oh, thanks. And look at this. I'm triple merched up, ready. Look at this. Triple merched up. In fact, actually, I've got my T-shirt on, but it's a bit skin tight, so I'm quadruple merched up. I don't want to show you that.
Because of the mince pies over Christmas?
Yeah, something like that. I'm on a new regime again. This is my 20th regime in the last 2 years. But this time it's going to stick because I'm going into my 40th year. So I need to do something about it. It's good to be back. It's good to be back thinking about future of education. I know we've had a little bit of a hiatus and we had a bit of a quiet time, but yeah, we've joked about it. But me and Steve are going to be continuing the podcast over the next few weeks, months, years. Dan, as many of you know, he's flying as the AI educator all around the world. 86,000 miles he's done in the last 12 months. He's speaking all around the world around the future of education, particularly around AI. He's speaking at BETS coming up, speaking at FETC. He's doing very, very well for himself, and we wish him all the best in that work, but he just couldn't align that into a regular podcast slot. So, mate, you'll be missed, and we are grateful for all the stuff you've done to help us get to this point. And now, as we become superstars, we won't forget you. And as we accept our MBEs and all that thing, we'll remember you, and you'll be involved in our speeches and that. So, yeah. So it's just the two of us.
It is. Did you have a good Christmas, Ben? We've not really discussed it. Did the kids have a good one?
Yeah, really good. You can't complain. The kids are getting older now, so the presents get smaller and more expensive. But it was great fun. Had a nice break, and it slowed back into work. Really good. And yours a little bit younger, aren't they, Steve? So I presume the magic is he's still well and truly alive.
The magic is there, and the sleepless nights still continue. Ollie, we had a week. We thought we'd cracked it. We thought that he was doing well with his ears and everything else, and then the infection came back. He's still obviously waiting for his operation, and then we got to it, and we were like, "Yeah." So we're now 2.5 weeks back into no sleep. My wife's done the last 2 nights, so I feel a little bit more human than I did at the beginning of the week. But the kids loved it. It's not really rest, but absolutely obsessed with Christmas. And Ella keeps saying to me, Santa Claus is coming every night now. I'll probably get that for the next year until he arrives. But yeah, it is what it is. And I'm excited. We made a commitment, a target, and a new resolution in 2024 to resurrect, to bring back, to start season 3 of the Edufuturists podcasts. And here we are. And you know what? I'm really excited for our first guest. Yep. Somebody that well respected, somebody that that actually mentored me. Jon was my mentor as part of the Google community, and I selected Jon. I wasn't given Jon. Good friend of ours, and we're going to be talking about lots of different things. It's going to be scattergun, like we always do. We're going to bring Jon in, Jon Neale, and Jon can introduce himself to anybody that doesn't know Jon. But if you are in the UK or global, let's call it that, you must know who Jon Neale is. You must know who he is. One for his TikTok dances and going viral on there, or one for just being just a stand-up guy. Just one of those people that is just always there to help.
You made the stand-up joke. You made the stand-up joke. Stand up.
Hello. Hello, Ben.
How are you doing, Jon? You all right?
How are you?
Brilliant, mate. How was your Christmas?
It was fantastic. We actually were lucky enough, after a few years of not being able to travel for a few reasons, we went over to the States to see our family on that side of the pond, which was wonderful. So I had a couple of weeks in New York, down through the DC area. So feeling rejuvenated and ready to go for a smashing 2024.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, love it. That sounds great. And I know that you sent me a picture outside the White House. Obviously, you're just about to go and see Joe and Jill for a brew. Did they drink Yorkshire tea, or do you know?
Well, actually, no, they were kind of, I think, as we discussed, I think that it was kind of there was some sort of event going on at the White House. I don't think it was an EdTech do. Otherwise, of course, the likes of all of us would have been invited. And can I just clarify as well? It is only the two of you, because I only came on for the chance to meet Dan. So this is hugely disappointing.
Yeah, very good.
But I do enjoy the possibilities of how you can, rebrand as the dynamic duo. I just want to know, quick fire question: who's Batman and who's Robin?
I don't think you'd like to see me in either of those outfits.
Good answer, Ben. Good answer. Yeah.
And I just think about it. The Batman and Robin, it's probably more like the Del Boy and Rodney version of it, just running over the hill.
This time next year, Steve. This time next year.
I think it's one of those things we like I said, we wish Dan well, but I think, let's be honest, a lot of people I spoke to over a regular basis, when we kind of just said, we didn't say goodbye, we said see you later, see you soon. A lot of people say, why did you stop it? We miss it and everything else. I was like, I miss it. Yeah. I miss it from a selfish point of view. Me and Ben were like, we miss it. Let's continue. I know Dan can't, and he's made a commitment, and he's 100% supporting what we're trying to achieve. But there's still an appetite for it, and to get individuals on like yourself and share the message. We've got some great guests coming up. I'm excited. I think this is the thing where when the excitement goes, you have to refresh and reconsider what we're trying to achieve. But me and Ben joined about half an hour before you did, John, and we were like, we're really excited. Yeah. I was well excited. By the end of it, between the three of us, we were churning out guests every week, and with busy lives and everything, we just got tired, didn't we, Ben? Let's be honest. We were knackered. We were absolutely knackered, and repositioning what we want to achieve from the podcast and everything else that goes with it. So for those people, I'd be amazed. But John, tell us a recent history of those people that don't know who you are, that go in, Jon Neale, who's he? Tell us a bit of your story.
Well, first of all, everyone should know, because I was on the podcast back in 2019.
Episode 41. Episode 41.
Yeah,
everybody.
There you go. Wow, I've got that tattooed on my arm as well, Ben. So that's good. That's why I never forget. But yeah,
and 70. I think you've been on twice actually. Did you come on? Oh no. Actually, we talked to somebody else in episode 70 about you, but that'll come back later.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, just as you say, Steve. So, I'm a very proud educator, as I know we all are. Teacher, school leader of 17 years, and along the way, kind of fell in love with purposeful use of not only technology, but just using tools in the right way to support not only what was going on in my own classroom, but what was going on in the classrooms of my colleagues in school. And as I think we're going to come to, being able to share those things with the wider educational community. And 2020, I took on a role at a startup called Moat and had lots of fun there, kind of building, helping to build that tool, meeting some wonderful people along the way, including some people from the team at Quizizz. And that is where I'm at now. And actually starting this week, just as we discussed before we went on air, I am really excited to be taking on the role of head of growth for the UK for Quizizz. So if you're based in the UK and listening to this, please reach out. Be really excited to connect with as many as possible. Yes,
exciting times. So Moat to Quizizz via lots and lots of education space before that, and obviously many of you who are listening or watching this might remember John from being the face of the Google Teacher Stand at BET for many years, weren't you, John?
Those were the days. I think they're still called the glory days of the Google stand at BET. I had the privilege of working alongside people like Ollie Trussell, Dean Stokes, Rachel Kotup, and lots more, both at BET but also ISTE too. And I think that part of that was really important for me was about making sure that when something was being demonstrated, when something was being shared, was that it was in a way that was telling a story and that was really helping to guide those teachers that might be passing by, or those school leaders, really understand what could be done with the tool, in addition to the sort of wow factor elements. Because I know that we've all over the years have been in those positions where we've had a great tool, but it's finding a way that you can make that speak to the audience, or even to the one or two people that you might have in front of you. So that was a real blessing for me, those opportunities to work alongside those great people, to work with the team at Google, and really understand how I could try and keep trying to refine the way that I was doing that.
Yeah, and I think that obviously I'm in a role that I've evolved into in terms of the C learning work now, and in any conversation I have with the software, so for example Google Workspace, all this kind of stuff is what does the tool look like? What is the benefit? But also the application, the context. I was speaking to somebody that we're looking to bring in to the organization, and this person said, I don't think I'm the most, I don't have the most technical knowledge, I'm not the strongest on this tool. And I was like, I think you're getting confused. The ability to use a tool to the best of the ability is very different from one's ability to portray how somebody else can use it and apply it to context. And the thing that I used to love about the teaching theatre, Ollie Trussell, by the way, absolutely, I think we've had him on the podcast and things before, and I said he had a voice like chocolate. That man's delivery is ridiculously good, because even in the role he has now, his ability to apply, and I saw him at a Matt PN event, I don't know if it's an independent school or HE, and he delivered a presentation on AI. And the reason I think it's the best one that I saw last year was the application to context of, if you try this as a teacher, or if you think about this as an organization, and it wasn't the tool that it was demonstrating, it was his ability to think about what the people wanted that were listening to him. So his ability to speak to an audience, to demonstrate and to hold them to think, this is what you might utilize, and here's some examples of applying it to a context of a primary, secondary, or an organization in your role. And I think some of the demonstrations were just like practice sets and the good old quick draw. Remember that good old amazing thing that Google created, was it about 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't new stuff. But the way he delivered it was exceptional. And you and Ollie, I remember standing there, is when they had their little classroom badges and stuff like that. You know, they were giving away all the little Chrome badges at Bear quite a few years ago. That year, I remember sitting there thinking, wow, how on earth are those individuals doing it repetitively? Because you must have been absolutely shattered.
It was a marathon.
Delivering it, and every person I felt that turned up there, it was standing room only, because people were going, oh my God, I could use it for this, I could use it. It was that lighting the spark of inspiration and how people could take a simple tool and apply it to a context of theirs. So I don't know what I was even saying or where we were going, but I think it's that understanding of not selling to people, showing the art of the possible, like the Walt Disney of anything, of saying, this is what potentially you could do. What do you want to do with it? What do you think you could do? I think is the key, isn't it, of any tool or anything else?
Yeah, and I think Steve, that there's always that thing as well, is, you always hear that we only employ teachers, or we only, we're all former educators, but the truth is there's a lot of different ways that can be interpreted. There's a lot, but you sort of instinctively, I think, I've been out of the classroom for a couple of years now, but I'm still, as I said right at the top of the show, I'm still a very proud professional teacher. It is a professional qualification. And I think that you feel such a connection and such empathy with anyone who you feel has been in your shoes, and that's not just like a day in front of a class. It's all that goes with that. And I think that when you hear someone like Ollie, or there are lots of other people, but on the subject of Ollie, is like, he was always very good at positioning everything through a sense of a really quick story that would just resonate, because he understood, and he was always able to go back to those times, and you could see when he was in the classroom. And that's one of those things that I've tried to do, both in my time at Moat and doing some advisory stuff and going forward with Quizizz, is to make sure that it's always putting the teacher, the learning situation, the problems, what they're trying to achieve, putting that at the forefront of everything that you try and do. And one of the ways that you can do that is obviously through building community and through having conversations.
Yeah, so it's not about doing this on your own either, is it? It's that whole conversation of we're better together, collaboration, the team, and I know that that's been something you've been super passionate about for many years. All the conversations we had in the early days when I first started out on this world was very much about how can we help each other, and it's always about legs up. And Steve talked to you about there earlier about you mentoring him when he was doing his coaching badges and whatever else, and what most people probably don't know that haven't been anywhere close to somebody like Jon is that Jon does a lot of hidden things in the background, little messages here and there. Have you noticed this? Have you thought about this person? I'd like to introduce you to this person. Probably about 5 or 6 of the people that we've had on the podcast over the last few years have been directly related to Jon. Said you want to get these people on. Nick Ferroni, for example, Rob Hoban from Agora School. These were all people that you recommended and put to us. But I think that comes from a willingness to not just be about building your own platform and your own stage and your own name, but you've been always that person who championed other people, and that's been kind of part of your community ethos, hasn't it, Jon?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And you mentioned Nick and Rob there, and they are 2 very different educators, but they both bring such wonderful insight into their own positions. And what's great about them too is that in their different ways, the way that they help. So, for example, the work that Nick Ferroni does in the US to help raise awareness of the sort of struggles that teachers are going through is just fantastic. And if you don't follow Nick, then join the millions that follow him across socials. And I think to go back to that point, Ben, like I can remember a time when, and we're talking kind of 2013, 2014 here, so best part of a decade. In fact, it is a decade. I remember we're in 2024 now. I can remember feeling a little bit burnt out, wouldn't be the word, but I didn't quite know sort of where my best direction was suited. I knew that I loved being in education. I loved helping the students, working with colleagues, but I didn't want to go down the traditional route of, departmental lead or faculty lead, and then going into that. And it was at that point that from someone at my former school, I came across using social media and using Twitter. And I sort of realized that community doesn't start and end with the people that you are blessed to spend every day with, but actually it's sometimes, and for me, I found it easier to connect with people. So I was a PE teacher at the time, connect with people who were in a similar position to me, but might have been in Australia or the US, or that wasn't to say I was ruling out people from the UK, but it was really interesting how easy it was to organically grow an authentic community. And it always came back to that people's willingness to listen to each other's problems, to help solve those. And if we didn't have a solution there and then, to sort of brainstorm and suggest ideas. And I think that that's one of those things that still inspires me to this day. And there's so many great people that you can learn from, both in and outside of education.
I think it's it would be remiss not to say thank you, I think, on behalf of lots of us. I know that me and Steve both talk about this quite a lot, that somebody who's had an influence on us and who has championed us and supported us, but also many, many others. So, Jon, this is not the end of the podcast, but I think
that was a lot quicker than expected. Brilliant. I'll be able to pick the boys up from school nice and early.
Did we not tell you that we do, but we're back to 20 minutes like season 1, Jon, just so everybody can listen it back on the journey. But
no, it's just saying thanks, mate. I think that's what I'm saying is building an authentic community really does need people that aren't just about their own voice and their own noise. And we've seen a lot of that, haven't we? So we know what that looks like. So we appreciate that.
When we were in education, and there was always a buzzword, wasn't there? Differentiation, personalisation. There's always a different buzzword. I've heard it, and I'm not saying it's a buzzword definitely here, but I want to unpick the term of what the real meaning is of authentic. Because I talk about authentic leadership. I love leadership. People say, "Oh, it must be a nightmare," and I was like, "Well, just be yourself, really, and try not to F it up." But when we're saying about organic and authentic community and like we've just talked about, let's be honest, you just had a thank you after 20 minutes, Ben. Ben's never said thank you to me, and I've been working with him for about 4 years. But let's be honest, people are thanking you. They don't have to, but because it's authentic and because you don't expect and never do it because of expecting a thank you. What does authentic mean to you in terms of community and also the role that we're doing? Because I think this is a bit that people talk about as a buzzword. You'll see it on websites, you'll see it everywhere. We're setting up but really, what does it actually mean? What to you, what does authentic mean in terms of, let's say, community and the role that we're in?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to return the thanks and the gratitude for all that you've done for me over the years. You know, and obviously for the millions of people tuning in across the world. And in terms of that piece about like an authentic community, I think, you know, that with the word authentic and looking to, you know, I think it's just being your kind of like true self in the sense that when you are representing, for example, a company, or you're demonstrating a tool, is to always keep in mind that, you know, the people who you are speaking to are very pressed for time. They're very busy people. They've got lots of stresses going on. And it's important to sort of cut through all the potential ways in which you can get sidetracked by things that might not resonate with them as much as that one thing. And really understanding that the different places that people are starting from and being able to just share, and in some cases stop at that one thing that they can just take away that's not going to overwhelm them, but they're going to be able to take and then use in their classroom, can really help them to understand that maybe there's more to this edtech than just something that was happening in the pandemic. You know, although it was very widely and usefully used in the pandemic. And when you extend that sense of authenticity to community, I think it's that same thing, is where, you know, I've certainly been in, and as I know we all have, been in edtech communities where initially you're so excited to be part of finding your family, or, you know, part of a tribe or whatever it is. But then, you know, in some cases, the sort of gloss wears off when you can start to feel like, is this just posturing? Is this just people who are collecting badges and wanting to put on their various social media profiles, I am a member of A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z or Z, depending on the side of the Atlantic that you're from? Or is it about something a little bit more purposeful? And I think that you can really extend that as well. And I was reflecting on, I remember when I first joined Facebook, and I was sort of like, oh, I want to get as many friends as possible. And it's like, that just doesn't mean anything, you know, like, you know, and so often we can fall sort of foul of, you know, going for as many, for example, on Twitter, go for as many followers as possible. A community, you know, it's quite easy to say this edtech brand, or this brand has, you know, let's say 40,000 followers. Wow, that's amazing. But the levels of engagement might be very, very small relative to the size of the community, because for whatever reason, clearly that community doesn't feel as engaged as they might. And maybe that's the fault of, you know, the brand itself. Maybe there's something happening which is a bigger part of education at that particular time. But one of the things I try to do at Moat, and that I'll certainly try and do in my role at Quizizz, is to try to make sure that people feel that they get value from being a member of the community, that it isn't so much as what you as teachers and school leaders can do for the company and for the tool, but actually the other way around. And I think that that's when it becomes really, you know, like a really solid symbiotic relationship where there is participation and reward coming from both sides. But you can tell as well, you can tell those that speak from a place of wanting to help and wanting to really make a difference versus, you know, if you follow us, then this will happen, or there'll be this reward or whatever. So I think it's just, and it can be hard as well. And I think that that's why some people have maybe taken a step back from the kind of, I don't even know if it's called Twitter or X, which is probably part of the problem with that. But you can sort of see there's been a bit of a shift in people's activity levels on different platforms as things have changed. And I'm sure that certain amounts of that we could attribute to the pandemic and everything that happened there. But it's something that I do spend a lot of time pondering, and always wanting to make sure that I maintain as much as I can that sense of this is why I'm in it, you know?
Yeah. I think nobody wants to feel like an imposter. Nobody wants to feel like it's forced. I had a conversation. I was going to go into some lingo. Basically, on the other side, not on the other side of the pond, APAC. So Asia Pacific area, and somebody was talking about setting up a community. They wanting to branch out and get involved, and they reached out to the Edufuturists and said, "Is there any chance that you can just? We're wanting to. We loved what you did with the uprising. We love what you've done over the years, continuously with the Edufuturists around the community that you've built. We want to do a bit of that. Can you give me some advice, and can you spend half an hour just having a chat with us?" I was like, absolutely not a problem. Just happy to give up an hour to support anybody. Tell me a bit about yourself. Tell me a bit of anything else. And the first thing I said is, if you're wanting to do this just to make money, that's absolutely fine, and I respect it. But people will smell a rat. I said, because if you're setting up a community to sell things only, I was like, the people in the community will say, well, what's in it for us? Ultimately, if you're only doing it for your own gain, then ultimately, why would people ever want to be part of that community, knowing that literally they're just part of a way to make money? And I think we've brought the Edufuturists back. It sounds like it's been dead for decades. It doesn't. You know, we continue in the work for Edufuturists because it was Ben and Dan originally for a short period of time, and then it became Ben, Dan, and me, and now it's back to it for the first time, Ben and me. It was never about building the community that we have. It was never really about the event originally. It was just three mates that kind of... I attended the event and I thought this sounded great. I presented and joined. We just get on. We're just mates who are trying to just share our experiences, get some wonderful people on like yourself and just share their experiences. We're actually, let's be honest, through no gain of our own for a long period of time, you know, we are starting to branch out in terms of sponsorship of podcasts, and that's what we're going to be reaching out to people and the event and everything else. We have to do bits like that to keep it going. But it was never about financial gain in that regard. Probably like the Joey Tribbiani and the Phoebe from Friends. There's never something that you do without getting something back. You know, I can't remember what the term was. But ultimately, our community that we now have, and we're really, really thankful for everybody that listens and attends and tweets, and so many people have said we're excited to hear that you're coming back, because it was just organic and it was honest, and we've just said, you know what, we've got a bit of a story, we've got some opportunities. Do you want to listen? And people made that decision themselves if they wanted to join, and that's what I said. I said we never intended it to be a role, never been intended to be an income. Nothing about that was ever done for Edufuturists. And I said, if that is not your avenue, I'm probably not the person that you want to speak to, because you're not going to get the truth of how you're going to make something successful and profitable from a community, because that's not what we did.
Are we not making loads of money, Steve? I thought that's the reason why I have that Porsche out there. Do you not have one?
Well, you keep cashing all the checks, mate. I just don't have an opportunity. So whoever cashes the check first gets it, and Ben's done it for many, many years now. And that's
a joke, by the way. If anybody from HMRC is
swimming pool that Ben's put into his garage and his garden, you know, let's not talk about those kind of charities on this podcast. But we just did it because we just wanted to do it, and I think people helping people is the best way that you can do it. And whatever that is, whether that's time, whether that's stories, whether that's knowledge, whatever that is, I think beliefs and values, and going back to that term of authentic, doing it because of these things, as long as you're honest about why you're doing it, I think people have a decision of whether they want to join in or not. If you try and basically fudge it and say, this is the reason I'm doing it, and it's not for that reason, it's not authentic, and you'll get found out.
Yeah, and I think that you know, I actually put a post onto LinkedIn like a month or so ago that was about the slightly strange situation we're in which community can mean different things to different people, you know. And I think, you know, one of those things, as I said, could be a simple metric of you have this many followers on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is. But actually, the only real community that matters to school leaders, to your kind of, you know, typical teacher. I don't want to say average teacher. There's no such thing as an average teacher. There's no such thing as just a teacher. But the most important community for school leaders, for teachers, for parents, etc., is their own community. And I think that if you kind of blur the lines between what a community lead might be, between like that, oh, hooray for 50,000 followers, you've got a school leader. They're saying, so what? Like, I care about the 1,250 learners that I serve on a daily basis, and that I'm trying to get the most for them. Like, that's, they're I'd go as far as to say that they literally couldn't, trying to choose my words carefully, they couldn't care less about that. And I think that that's so important. That's so easy to overlook. And one of those things that you mentioned as well is due to, I'm sure, a number of factors. Teachers, school leaders, whoever, governors, they're so good at sniffing out when someone is speaking at a less than authentic position, and if they're posturing unnecessarily, like they have very high BS detectors, I would say. So I think that's always something to be very mindful of, is that those like first impressions and things like that like really matter. Hats off to anyone that's doing it as well as you guys are, and to all those sort of people that are doing it for the right reasons in the right ways. I'm sure that are getting those wonderful results and warm feelings inside. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you've done that successfully as well, and are hoping to continue that into that new role at Quizizz as well. And we've pinpointed that idea about being authentic. Is there anything else that you would suggest is important as a feature of that authentic community? How do we build a community that isn't just about getting the most followers, getting the most people using it, making money, blah blah blah? All them things might be secondary. They're all great things, but they're not the primary focus. What other things do we need to think about, Jon?
I would say feeling heard is really important. A sense of trust. When you're part of let's say, for example, that I become a such and such certified trainer, and I'm in that particular group, and what I want is to be able to have really valuable discussion that I can then take away and learn things that I can then serve my own community with. And I also take great pride in being able to help other people with that sort of role. So I think any community that really supports and empowers people to have those conversations where people are chipping in and sharing ideas is brilliant. And I would say that you're much more likely to get sustainable engagement when it comes from that place, as opposed to the random, you need to retweet, comment, and like, and whatever, and then you might win a pair of socks. I think that those things are great. Like, everyone likes socks, but it's being able to.
Actually... Steve doesn't like socks. You know that Steve doesn't wear socks.
Oh, that's true. Actually, that is like I'm literally speaking to the worst person in the world when it comes to socks. But I just think that is definitely that's a truth, in that wanting to make sure that there is that real appreciation of feeling that your voice is heard. Google do a really wonderful thing where through Google Classroom you can click on that little question mark button. You can then submit feature requests and feature feedback, and then if and when they're implemented, you then get a nice email that thanks you for that idea. And I would say that small things like that really, really do matter. And I'm sure there are countless other examples, but that's one that stands out to me.
Just on that one, if anybody wants to win a pair of socks, no, I'm just joking. The reason I show this is every year, I'm not going to name the person, somebody sends me, as a joke, a pair of Google socks. They must spend a fortune. If anybody's been on the Google merchandise store, they're the most expensive things that you can buy in the world. Why would I wear, if I'm going to wear socks, why would I wear Google socks?
I'd wear them.
Every year, somebody sends me a pair of Google socks. In my drawer, I've got probably about 6 pairs of Google socks.
Bring them to me. Bring them to me. Wow. I love socks.
You've already got your Google TV on the way, Ben. For your Christmas present. No, come on. I don't know that I got
Christmas 2024.
It will be. Yeah. So
I hope it's not going to be a Jamboard.
Well, whoever's got a Jamboard, there is rumours that you're going to get some really expensive kit as a.
Wow.
yeah, everybody who's got one, Leeds City College, hopefully you're listening. You've got about 15 because I was there at that time. There is talk that anybody that had a Jamboard is going to be replaced by a new screen.
Wow.
That's not 100% confirmed in terms
That's
of
a
my.
big move. That's a big move.
But I'm almost that I've seen that. Hopefully, it's not under non-disclosure because I'm really in trouble after this call. But maybe it is. Oh my god, the lines are blurring. I need to quickly steam back and everything else. But yeah, if you've got Jamboard,
just while you're recovering and digging yourself out and checking whether that was under NDA, Jon, tell us a little bit about the role at Quizizz. Obviously, head of growth, and there's obviously going to be community elements there. But talk to us a little bit. 99% of the people who are listening to this will have heard of Quizizz. Obviously, a household name from an education perspective. But give us a little bit about what you're going to be doing there, if that's all right.
Of course, yeah. No, really excited. So I've been actually doing some advisory work for them for the past few months, and that's been largely focused on events, building community, looking at partnerships in the US. But this role is going to be exclusively focused on things here in the UK. So it's going to be looking to build community, looking to grow usage, looking to help people adopt the tool in a way that is, more than just like creating your first activity and then moving on, but finding a way that it can become part of a really positive and purposeful way in which teachers can leverage the tool in their classrooms. So if you're new to Quizizz, it's everything from quizzes to lessons. There's a library of tens of millions of resources that are out there that you can search, that you can use. And also in the past half year or so has really leaned into the power of AI to make a tangible difference in the activity creation process. So you can jump onto like a YouTube video, tap a Chrome extension, within a couple of seconds you've got a quiz. You can transform existing Google Slides, PDFs, articles. You can do all that same thing, and using AI you can convert them into some really, really engaging activities. And I think one of the things that I'm most proud of about Quizizz is that it is really fun, it's engaging, it's all of these great words, but also the focus is on student mastery and making mastery accessible for all. It is not just about going through a bank of 10 questions. How fast can you do it? Do it again. Congratulations, you've improved, you've done it quicker. Like that's not what it's about. It's about trying to help students actually more than just go through the process of a quiz or a test, but using a variety of features, how that can actually become what we would probably call as educators like real learning. Like it isn't just a regurgitation of something that you've just read on a whiteboard. I almost said blackboard. But that's something which is, that your students, if you came back to them, a couple of weeks, couple of months down the line, they would have much, much greater likelihood of being able to retain that information and tell you in a way that was in their own words, other than perhaps if they might through other methods.
Love that. Just one thing, Ben. I know you're going to come back in. Sorry. Do you want to go first, Ben, before I take it somewhere else? Yeah, whiteboard, blackboard, same thing, just a different utensil to write on it. How much education has developed and evolved over the years. The irony of just standing at the front. We now have interactive versions of it. And everything else,
but still standing at the front.
You must stand at the front. I think that is a prerequisite of any great teacher, is stand at the front. Go for the sage on the stage. No, do not go for that approach. That's
Are you
certainly
going for
not.
the new education minister? You sound like a proposal. Is this part of the job interview?
Yeah, precisely. But yeah, so whilst I will have a UK facing role, if there's anyone who's not from the UK but still interested in finding out more, then please, or just want to connect about anything else, and please, give me a shout.
Just on that, final shout out for Quizizz. Have you got a stand? Are you there at Bet?
So we do not have a stand, but we're actually just had confirmed yesterday that I'm going to be back on the Google booth.
I'll see you there, Jon. I'm there too.
Oh, amazing!
I'll be walking past, so I'll wait.
So I'm going to be delivering.
He'll be wearing his socks. He'll be wearing his Google socks.
Perfect. I hope so. And so I'm going to be delivering a couple of 2-hour demonstrations on using Quizizz. It's going to be obviously delivered through Chromebook, and then I'm going to be joining a panel on a discussion around using Chromebooks for creativity. So one of those things that you can do using Quizizz is you can use it for higher order thinking. So drawing, audio response, video response, etc. And as we all know, I love a good video. So really excited for that.
Just on that, the title. I've been in the new role I'm in. It's not a new role anymore, 2.5 years. And I remember talking about growth. And I said to the board, and I said, what does growth mean? Are you talking about profits? Are you talking about revenue? Are you talking about all the stuff that I didn't really understand as a teacher? I now deal in quarters and halves and everything else. But that title growth is a massive thing, because it could be users. It could be not growing in users, but it could be the utilization of every person who already has a membership. It could be the learning element for every user, the learning that the teachers learning in terms of their growth, in terms of their understanding of the tool. I think it's a great title. It's a massive one. But I think it's exciting because ultimately you can demonstrate growth in many, many different ways. And as long as they've not put too much metrics on you, you're onto a winner, John. There's no way you can lose.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things is that as you said, Quizizz is one of those tools that's like super well established in the US. There are lots of people who I'd say are kind of edtech folk in the UK and other parts of the world who are very much aware of the tool. But I think that one of the great opportunities is to for a tool like Quizizz, and there are certainly others like it too, is to really help through storytelling, through empathy, through authentic engagement, is just show that there are ways in which tools could and probably should be used in classroom for everything from the kind of, leveling up student learning, but also really importantly, being able to give teachers back some of their time, because it's so easy. I mean, you can't avoid seeing how, awful the hours are for sort of teachers, working relentlessly through the holidays, through the weekends, etc. So, trying to choose your tools, putting ed before tech, etc., and doing that in a way that matters, I think would be the best foundation for growth, not only for Quizizz, but for anyone looking to pursue that particular lofty goal.
Interestingly, did you come up with the title yourself? Because I remember the reason why I ask is we had Louise Jones on, who obviously does some work with ThingLink, who you know really well from her time at Google as well. And she wrote her own job title, which was Social Purpose and Community Manager, which was very Louise. Or was Head of Growth an actual job, or did you make that?
No, it was actually, so it was more based upon, I think, the ambitions of Quizizz to develop a purposeful footprint, to have something in the UK that wasn't just, as you say, Steve, wasn't just numbers of teachers, wasn't number of activities completed, but was listening to those users. There are tens of thousands of users currently, but it's not like the kind of 90% penetration there is in the US. And I think is trying to, I was very, very open to sort of any and all ideas of a title, to be honest, Ben. But no, this was something that one of the co-founders was very much behind, felt it was a suitable title, and who am I to disagree?
Totally agree. Now, you mentioned subtly there around videos, and you mentioned a few moments ago about social media and the power of social media. Now, for those people who are listening and don't know this side to John's story, Jon is a TikTok guru. He would say not.
No, I would say I am.
Yeah. So Jon is tell us a little bit about your use of TikTok and experience around TikTok.
Yeah, first of all, I would say that I'm most definitely not a TikTok guru. I really like, and I fell in love with the idea of not TikTok, but the idea of short form storytelling. Vertical videos seems to be the path that's taken, but that sort of quick, almost elevator style pitch, which is something that I'd been reading about a lot. And I think that being able to equip not only our young people that are in our, educational systems across the world, but teachers and everyone, to be honest, with a skill set that includes storytelling and powerful storytelling at that, in a time when attention spans are, next to nothing. I think that I personally think there are few better platforms to experiment and explore than TikTok. And I don't mean, for the sort of funny dances and all that sort of stuff. Although I'm sure there are some people out there that do some wonderful dances, and that's great, and good luck to them. But the way that I've explored it is through just things like a hook. And I think back to my time as a teacher in how would I use that now? Because effectively, when you go into that classroom, almost that first, few seconds, certainly minute, that is your sort of hook. And that affects so much, whether it's the attention of the learners that you have in front of you, whether it's your own focus, whatever it is. I think there are so many parallels between understanding how to create and craft a really engaging video. One of those things with the algorithm on TikTok is you are rewarded for the longer amount that you can, or for the longer proportion that you can keep people in your video interested in whatever it is that you're producing. So I think there are certainly ways that we as educators, and should I ever go back to the classroom, that would be something that I would, always try to make sure is that there isn't like a lull for half the lesson when everyone's gazing out the window wondering like, why are they there? But rather, what are they getting from it? And I've explored everything from a EdTech channel to I've got a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan page, and then the one that's done remarkably for me the best is actually a classical music page, which is just knocking on the door of 75,000 followers. Not that we worried about metrics, but bearing in mind it took me a decade to get 4,500 people even remotely interested in what I was saying on Twitter, and it took me about 6 weeks to get to that number on TikTok. I think it's all learning, Ben. And I know I've spoken with you both before about, and I can see various edtech companies are going into the space of how do you make something funny without it being too cringy, but also the low fidelity model seems to be the way forward. And likewise, anyone's got any groups or discussions going on, please involve me. Not for the dances. That's not a site that you would want to see, but for any other element, please loop me in.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? And let's link it fully to education. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who isn't in the edtech space, isn't even in the education space, has got children a little bit older than mine. My little boy is 2 on Tuesday.
Many happy returns.
Holiday. Yeah, second birthday, and Ella is 3.5.
When is that? How was that? How is he 2 already? That is mental.
I know. He's still not slept, so 2 years in. This is why I look like this. But just think about that. We were talking about the future of education, but also what education looks like now. If you think about, not necessarily TikTok and everything else, but if you think about, and I was telling a story about my daughter. She's obsessed with YouTube Kids. These people, and I had, heaven forbid, I googled two of the families that she watches, and I was like, that person, they're making £250 million a year. I was like, how did that happen? I was like, I'm in the wrong business. But anyway, so I was looking at it, and as soon as it comes up, my daughter's like, there's an advert. I was like, Ella, it's 4 seconds. And I told the story to my daughter, and I said, Daddy used to watch and get to watch 1 episode a week. She doesn't understand days, weeks, times, and everything else. So it was irrelevant. She's like, Dad, why are you even telling me this boring story? But I was trying to explain to her, I only got to watch it once. I had to then wait a long period of time. And during that 1 hour that I got to enjoy it, there's probably only about 35 minutes of watching something. And I had to wait so long in between what you're classing as a time frame. I could make a cup of tea or lots of different things to keep myself busy before I could watch it again. But my daughter was 3.5, and many of the young people that we're now teaching, not the teachers, because they learn in a very different way, and they also absorbed information and watched things in a terrestrial way, normal TV, 5 channels or even 4 channels. We're now in a streaming world where if there's an advert, you can watch the full advert, but you can skip it. How do we apply that to education without going in for we probably could spend about 5 other episodes on it. But we really need to think what you're thinking about in terms of that hook, that short video, that short snippet of information. But we're not delivering in that way of the way that they're consuming information. We're delivering it in the way that we used to consume it, and we're creating content for our young people in education based on our beliefs and the way that we consumed information rather than the way that they want to consume it. I think that's a real challenge for education right now, isn't it? And I think a lot of educators say, well, we need to do it in this way. I think it's wrong, because my daughter's saying, 4 seconds of an advert's
Yeah.
too long. I'm bored.
Yeah, she's right. That's way too long. Yeah.
But how does a teacher create an hour's worth of content, if that's going to be the future, where our lessons still exist, where actually the length of each snippet of learning is 30 seconds? Then, how do we shift it, or how do we evolve it? Because I used to, Christmas time, we just had it. I used to watch Kez. The teachers used to roll out that TV, and it used to be plugged into a wall, and I used to watch a whole episode of Kez. I'm from Yorkshire, still love it, and I'll sit through Kez. But those days are gone, aren't they? Do you know what? How do we provide information and learning opportunities in that really tiny nanosecond of because our children are impatient and curious to quickly move on from it? How do we do that in education? I think not for asking for a resolution, John, but what are your thoughts on it? I guess.
I think it's definitely important to take note, isn't it? And it's interesting that you kind of say, there's a sort of divide between young people and people more of our age, that the rolling TV generation. But that being said, I do still think, even if you're delivering, let's say, a professional development session, that you still need to be very much more on your sort of engagement game from the off than perhaps you might have been even as recently as 5 or 10 years ago. Because, my experience is actually sometimes the worst in terms of people that are being attentive are adults. That this isn't like, they're actually more inclined to be, let's have a quick check of my email and, scrolling through. And, TikTok is just a platform, but I think that whole idea of being able to, as teachers, as educators, as students as well, is be able to break down an idea and actually hit with the hook at the start. Like, this is the thing, rather than starting off a video with like, hi, my name's John, and people have already lost interest. Goodness, they see me, they hear me, and I'd flick on to the next video if I were them, but if you're actually straight away, if you're hitting someone with like, I know this is a problem that you're facing, or wouldn't it be cool if, then I think people will probably be more inclined. And, there are probably things, and I'm sure there are people, I know Holly Clark in America does some great things with TikTok. I'm sure there are some people that are developing really powerful courses for teachers on almost like, I could almost see the session now at the sort of future ISTE or whatever of, teach like you're on TikTok, or, where it is based upon almost dividing up as you would a video, which is like solid hook, something to kind of, 3 little checkpoints that are easily achievable. And then, by the way, just do this, so being able to have that in a classroom, I'm maybe not suggesting that lessons should be 1 minute before you move on to the next class. That would be absolute chaos in any school. But maybe there are ways in which we can, as you say, Steve, like maybe an hour, maybe 40 minutes, maybe however long it is just an arbitrary number that's a hangover from previous generations of a slightly different educational system that was, it's sad to think that the excitement for many of us was the moment when the cupboard doors opened and out rolled the TV. Like, hooray! I get to watch Tom Hanks Big for the however many time. But
I didn't watch that over Christmas. I need to go back to that. What a wonderful film that is, by the way.
But I think that's very sort of.
Sorry, we only ever watched like half an hour of a film, though. Same half an hour.
Yeah, you're right. You never get to see it then.
I never knew how Bruce Almighty finished. Like, just realised I watched that first half an hour every lesson.
It's an interesting one. Should we do? We're bringing something new in at the end. Some quick 5 questions that we're going to ask all guests, and we're just going to. We're not going to go Bartlett on everybody. Apologies, we're not up to that level yet. Where leave a question that we're going to ask for the next guest or anything like that. But I suppose first one is, what do you think, or do you think the whole thing of Dan would shudder at this? But do you think AI will replace teachers? What's your thoughts? Quick fire.
If I were to be like really trying to get people's back up, I'd say, of course it will. But if I were to actually think as an educator myself, and also someone that takes a lot of pride in that craft and the personal connection element, then I'd almost say, well, there's no way that AI can replace a good teacher. I think that those teachers that will excel as we look forward will be those that, just as they do with all tools, will look to integrate AI in a way that best supports what they're doing and the way that they teach and the way that they try and engage their learners. I think that if someone were to go all in and try and replace themselves with an AI bot, I think that would be an interesting experiment. But I'd imagine that those things that really matter from face-to-face interaction, being part of that, even if it's just a classroom community, I would like to think would be lost almost instantly with an AI of any sort. However you might want to badge that up as we've got a robot coming into the class. I mean, I think we could probably all think about teachers that maybe we've worked with before or even been taught by who might have a bit of a robotic delivery style. But no, I would think that teachers, good teachers, passionate teachers are some of the most safe people in the world when it comes to like having job security in the face of very changing and challenging times.
Love it. So AI won't replace good teachers, but it might replace bad ones. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, those are your words, Ben, but yeah.
Just going back, I found my first presentation just on this quick one, 2014, and the first slide was technology will not replace teachers, but teachers that use technologies will replace those that won't.
Yeah, there you go.
Does that apply to any context? And is AI any different, or actually is it just a great tool if you use it effectively? That teachers that use it effectively will be the longevity and will last out beyond anybody that doesn't.
So, second quick fire question: future exams. Obviously, in the Quizizz world, we could have gone down this in a conversation. Future exams. It's an Edufuturist bugbear. Future exams: online, traditional, scrapped. What do we think?
I am not a fan of exams. I think that maybe they have some sort of a role to play, but I think for them to be the be all and end all of, someone's toiling away in the class and in school for 12 years and it's all judged upon, a 90-minute sit at a desk and answer something. Surely there has to be a better way of doing things. And one of the things I actually, as I do, I find myself reflecting on various things. I was thinking the other day about, I know there were things that weren't ideal about this, but in the pandemic, we had to find another way to do things. And on the whole, things were based on trust. But bearing in mind that no one had any training on how to do this and how to actually give grades that weren't from, it seemed to me, it seemed to be okay. And for us to just totally abandon that and just to say, well, that was something that we did during COVID and whatever, it just seems a bit of a cop-out. Like, I know that it wasn't perfect. And I know that there are probably some people that gave too high grades and others that probably went the other way. And certain students have been hard done by and others are in the other position. But surely there has to be a way in which we can, reward students that may be able to. We've all had those that can, in a classroom discussion, contribute beautifully, able to debate fully and really understand the intricacies of what's going on. But when they're faced under that exam pressure, for whatever reason, it's just not their thing. So I would really hope that, and it's going to take a brave group of people, maybe it's a few universities, maybe it's some like further education institutions, maybe it's some companies who are sort of taking a stance and saying, actually, we know that you're doing exams, and this is what we value as much, even more. So don't worry if they weren't your thing. I'm for my own children who are 10 and 7 now. I'm excited for a future in which, and I hope it comes sooner rather than later, in which they could be rewarded, as could all of their peers, for the different strengths that they all have.
Yeah, and there are some independent schools. I think independent schools, maybe they're beyond the shackles of some of the remits, but they've removed GCSE and then endpoint exams. One of those, I can't remember both of the names, but Minerva is definitely a school that's done that. So fair play to them to taking that step. It takes. It's not the first; it's the creating the dance, isn't it? The movement. Okay, key skill What is a main skill that you think students will need for 2040?
Storytelling. I just
you love it.
and that's not just the sort of TikTok thing, but I think honestly, and it probably comes back to the exam bit as well, is that has so much relevance, whether you're in school, whether that's outside when you're sort of first exploring the world outside of school, but even in your personal relationships, is being able to engage people and to have them appreciate your opinion. And also listening is I know that's 2 skills, but I think listening is a very important skill as well for students and for all of us.
What did you say, sorry? Just kidding.
Very good.
See,
and I almost fell for that, Ben. And then I remembered your terrible sense of humour, and yeah.
sorry. Last one. We'll just go with this one. What do you think is the biggest threat to the future of education? What do you think the biggest threat is?
I would say like stagnation, and it probably comes back a little bit to laziness of not people in schools, but maybe people outside of schools that have a perception of what education should be based upon what they went through. And the kind of slightly, sad thing for me is I feel that probably we were having this conversation 10 years ago, and I'm sure people before us were having this conversation 20 years ago and 30 years ago. And it's like, I just think that this whole "it's always been that way" mantra, if it doesn't change, then that is a bit of a sort of threat, because we're only going to be preparing kids for whatever we were preparing them for however many decades or hundreds of years ago. And I think maybe a shake-up of the curriculum, maybe some sort of shake-up of what actually matters in terms of output beyond exams as a sort of endpoint and decisive marker in everyone's life could be huge contributors. But again, it requires a lot of bravery, and maybe the Edufuturists are the dynamic duo to do just that. I hope so.
On that note, absolutely wonderful. I think myself, you and Ben, I remember it on the BenQ stand bet last year, and it wasn't a year ago, it was March, so 9 months ago. We talked about the importance of community. We talked about how excited we are to get you on the podcast. It's taken us 9 months. We have spoken in the background. We've not just ignored John and left him just talking about community on his own. You know what? An hour in the presence and an hour in the company of Jon Neale is something that we really, really value, and I think everybody listening will. It's exciting. I think it's going to be a massive year of growth for Quizizz. What can't be grown and what can't be smashed when Jon Neale's at the helm. I'm excited for it, mate. I think I can't wait. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for Quizizz. And in my role at Sea Learning, I'll be coming to you, definitely. Yeah. We've talked about that. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for being the first one on the new season. I'm great, and I'm excited for people to listen to it. Appreciate you being kind to being Ben in our first one back. And no, it's been absolutely great, and appreciate you coming on, mate. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, John.
Cheers, Ben. Cheers, Steve. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, mate.